Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's special Monday night panel. Hope everybody's recovered from Saturday. It was a wonderful day, and if anybody did see me, no, I wasn't crying, I promise. Just a few things to say. One thing, thank you everybody who supported the end of season dinner last Wednesday that the Supporters Club organised. We had a wonderful time. And I'm sorry if you didn't manage to get tickets for this year, but next year we'll be looking at numbers and seeing if we need to hire somewhere with more space. Ticket details for the playoffs. Now, I know there's been lots on Twitter and on social media. First leg, midday next Sunday. Tickets are on sale today. They were from 5 o'clock for season ticket holders. Tomorrow, I believe, and I'm just checking so I don't get it wrong and tell you something different. So tomorrow, they will be for season ticket holders and 6 game memberships. That's online, in person, and on the phone. That finishes at 6 o'clock on Wednesday, 6 o'clock PM on Wednesday. They go on general sale on Thursday. Which again will be online, in person, and on the phone. Please have some patience with them. I know people are having problems with the online system, but as we know, there are historic problems with it. There has been reports of abuse from the club staff. Please have some patience. I'm sure you will get your tickets, but speak to the club tomorrow at the ticket office, DM them, and they will get back to you. Okay. Other thing is, thank you to the people who come up to me on Saturday and thanked me and Vic for doing these live streams. It means so much to us for people who enjoy them. So thank you very much for that. So, right, I think that's all. Oh, sorry, one other thing. SAS Travel, they will be communicating when they've got details of the travel arrangements for the away leg a week on Thursday. So, again, patience with them. They're trying to sort everything out, and it takes time. So, they will communicate when they have the details. Okay. Goody. Oh, my goodness me. Hello, Vic. Or is that Harry?
Well, it might be Harry, but he's a lot younger and a lot fitter than I am, so unfortunately not.
How many games to go?
Three games. Yes, brilliant. I won't be keeping this on all the time. It's just I thought, well, hey, why wouldn't you do it? It's that
fantastic.
And actually, I can't see anything because it's too dark, so I'll take them off now. But I know somebody else on this panel has exactly the same idea, so we'll find out later.
We'll wait for that one to come on.
Yeah.
Right then, should we get Ali on? So let's. There we go. Hello. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Did you have a lot of work to do Saturday?
Nope. I was quite happy sitting there on the bench watching the game.
Yeah.
I must say, I am getting very frustrated with these refs waving me on before they get to the player. And then the boys are kind of yelling at me, get off the pitch. So you get told off if you're too quick. You get told off if you're on the pitch and they don't need you. You can't win.
No, you can't. Marvellous.
Oh, bless. Right. Okay. I'm going to leave you to it. So, Vic, I'm going to leave you with Ali, our head physio, and I will be back a bit later with the rest of the panel. Any questions, comments, please leave them, and we will get through as many as we can. Okay? Right, I am off.
Chris, thanks very much indeed. Actually, Ali, we're not having you on about to talk about Swindon Town. I pulled a calf muscle playing football on Friday night, so I've got you on for a bit of free advice, quite frankly. So, no, let's talk about Saturday, because an extraordinary experience, and to see all those Swindon fans there. How was it for you?
Oh, yeah, I was absolutely buzzing. Well, I think I was nervous in the week. I kept saying to the gaffer, I'm so nervous. I wonder how the players are feeling if I'm kind of feeling like that and I'm not on the pitch. So, yes, I think everyone was kind of in that focused mindset throughout the whole week. There didn't seem to be sort of an over, we're going to win, we're going to get to Wembley. There seems to be this lovely sort of calmness, but this focus during training and obviously in the change room and obviously with treatment, trying to prevent people getting injured leading up to the games. So I think, the gaffers kind of instilled that from word go that, you can't get too far ahead of yourself. We're taking one game at a time, each half at a time, and obviously trying to get the result at the end with everyone doing their job.
Yeah, I'm not going to push on who's fit and who isn't fit. That would be terribly unfair. But how difficult is it at this time of the season when basically players, their bodies are exhausted, aren't they? Let's be honest. How difficult is it for them to keep fit?
We've got a very good S&C team, and obviously Ben Garner is very receptive to what we're doing as a team. I think we've kept that dialogue open with the players and obviously with management in regards to the players should be coming up to us and telling us if they're feeling particularly tight. And then obviously we'll do our best to kind of treat them before they go out to training. And if we're particularly concerned based on the GPS data, then obviously considering that they might do part of the training session, not the whole sort of session, or they might get the session off just to try and work on preventative measures. Because, obviously we've got quite a small squad, and with some longer term injuries, we really need to kind of protect particular positions on the pitch at the moment to make sure that they get through to the next game. And it might be that the gaffers put them on for reduced minutes, even though they're doing particularly well, to make sure that we've got them for the next game. So it really is a whole sort of team effort to try and keep them on the pitch and fit.
Yeah, you mentioned GPS data. I mean, my goodness, that is one advancement that 30 years ago they wouldn't have even dreamed of, isn't it? I mean, somebody like Jack Payne, any idea how many kilometres he covers in a game? I mean, it's extraordinary.
Oh gosh, he's up there. It sort of varies probably between 10 to 12 kilometres a game. So he does get quite a lot of coverage on that pitch.
Yeah, which is about 6 and a bit miles, isn't it? It's incredible, really. Yeah. So in terms of injuries at the minute, what are the main concerns, in terms of, is it strains, is it muscle pulls, what is it at the minute?
We've got a few with sort of like tendinopathies and sort of longer term sort of issues that we're kind of managing with some loading before they go out to train and out to play. So we're trying to a lot of sort of neural issues, so with nerves, sort of giving them perceptions that there's something tight, and it's not necessarily feeling tight when we touch it or we sort of stretch it. So it's just trying to deal with those issues, particularly with the pitch getting so hard now. We've gone from being sort of really wet and sloshy to rock hard. So I think that's sort of flaring up a few of the boys' knees and, ankles and bits and pieces. But yeah, bit of pain relief, bit of TLC, and they're up and they're going.
But what's the sort of schedule for you this week then? I mean, obviously you've got till Sunday, which is, a little bit of an extra day. I guess they've had a bit of rest this weekend. Yeah. And looking forward to, getting back to training, I guess, tomorrow. So in terms of their schedule, how balanced is it? How hard is it for them this week? They're pretty fit anyway, aren't they? So
so the gaffer's more or less sort of taken the same approach as he would every other week, where we get a couple of days off in a row, obviously, as long as there's not 2 games in a week. And then we just sort of train consistently throughout the week. So in the earlier parts of the season, we might be training twice a day. We're now just sort of training once a day. And then there's a couple of gym sessions throughout the week as well, just to try and keep them sort of going and sort of trying to load those muscles and tendons so that the way they're ready for that sort of explosive part of the week, which is obviously the match. So yeah, it's not really changed too much, other than obviously everything's shifted slightly to the right because of the Sunday match instead of the Saturday.
How was it for you in terms of the game? Because I don't think you had too much to do on Saturday, did you? So was it a case of sitting back and enjoying it? What was it like?
Well, I was sitting there the whole time prepared to get on the pitch, but obviously the gaffer did say to them, don't let Ali get on the pitch unless you absolutely need her, and that's the thing, obviously, with fans keeping the ball, that sort of thing. When we're building momentum and we've just got a goal, as much as obviously some point, people do want a time waste as such. If we're on a good streak, we need to keep going. And with the boys sort of stopping still, and even if I've come on the pitch, they're cooling off a little bit. Yes, they might want a little bit of a break, but we need to keep the momentum going. And particularly these sorts of games leading up to Wembley, it's all about that momentum, where too much of a pause can actually break that for the lads. So yeah, I think they know if they probably just need a few minutes if they're taking a knock, rather than kind of using me to try and help buy them a little bit more time. And just to double check everything, have a think about that yourself before you actually ask for me to come on the pitch. But obviously, as I said before, sometimes the ref's calling me on and not even spoken to the player, which obviously makes it difficult because you're kind of standing there going, do I go? Do I not go?
Yeah, it's interesting. I know you've said before that, sometimes when you come on and people go, oh, they don't need treatment, blah, blah, blah. The player needs a few seconds just to get themselves together, don't they?
Absolutely. And sometimes it depends on the ref. Sometimes the ref allows them to do that on the pitch. Other times they're trying to drag them up straight away to continue, where I think it's quite good if the ref gives them those few seconds just to kind of collect themselves, because it does hurt. If someone's kicked you on the shin or on the side of the ankle, they're very sensitive areas of your body. And obviously sometimes it can be that shock element to the player as well, that, oh my God, there's something wrong because of potentially maybe their history of injuries, where, I think the gaffer's trying to get them to sort of think about it for themselves and not necessarily rely on me for that reassurance.
How was it afterwards then? Because, as you know, there were a few people on the pitch, some against that, some for it, quite controversial. But how was the mood afterwards?
Oh, the boys were buzzing, obviously, because, if you said to us a few weeks ago, would we be in this opportunity to go to playoffs? It felt 50-50. And if anything, it felt in against us with big games like Forest Green. And obviously Burrows nicked a few points off some of the bigger teams recently. We definitely knew that there was a challenge. So to win the last few games to get to this point and actually finish 6th rather than 7th, the boys were very, very excited. But I think at the same time, they weren't over the top in the sense that we know there's 3 games to go. It's not over yet, that you need to kind of keep yourself somewhat collected to keep that momentum, where if you think, oh, we're here, we're going to beat any team that we face now, you probably already lost the game. So
yeah,
I think
very striking that Harry McCurdy, you must have seen the footage, has said many times to the fans on the pitch, there are 3 games to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's the mindset they have to be in, isn't it?
Yep, definitely. And I think as much as Harry can come across as a bit of a controversial character on social media, some of the things that he actually says, it makes sense, logical, where other things he says, you've got to question what's coming out of his mouth. But he's right. We've got 3 games left. The gaffer's very much instilled the same message to the players. And I think we're all on the same page. So as much as there was excitement and happy sort of times, and particularly on the coach, it would have been a very sad coach ride back. It felt like any other coach ride after we've won a game, if I'm honest. The boys had their moment straight after the game, and then it was just focused. We need to now get ourselves physically ready. If you've got issues, you need to let me and the S&C team know ASAP. That way, if it's one of our days off and we need to get a player in to assess them or do some extra treatment to get them ready to go back to training, that's your time to do it.
Yeah, we should say with a caveat, of course, there are 2 games to go and possibly a 3rd.
Well, so we're going to be optimistic here. 3.
Yeah. No, and you're from Australia, so we'll let you off because you're much more optimistic than we are. So that's fair enough. Some comments coming in. So I was going to say this. Matt says, "What a team behind the scenes we have. Keep up the good work, Ali," which is lovely. From House and Holiday Home Mortgages. Just leave that there. Ali, which player makes you laugh the most?
I'm going to go with Reedy. He's a very funny character, but yeah, I think between him and Johnny Williams, there's certain people that bounce off each other. Obviously Ellis, he's a very funny guy as well. I'd probably go Reedy. I spend a lot of time with Reedy, just as general players that sort of come in to try to sort of look after themselves, to keep themselves on the pitch. Obviously he does a lot of running as well. Tends to get a bit of tightness, so he sort of comes in for a bit of treatment most mornings just to get himself prepared and ready for the match or training. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Reedy.
Marvellous. Okay. Alan seconds what was said about you and the backroom staff just now. Thanks, Ali and co. Jason says, will you wear a bucket hat on Sunday? That's the big question.
Probably not. maybe at the end of the game, but definitely not sitting pitch side.
Yes. I mean, the point is you've got to be professional, serious, and right in the right frame of mind, haven't you, for Sunday? So that's what it's all about for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah. Ray says, this is from Ray Murphy. Hello, Ray.
Hi,
GPS GPS says Payne covered just over 10 kilometres on Saturday. He was very, very slightly outrun by Louis Reed. Payne was 10.022 kilometres and Reed 10.028. Do you know, I bet they're competitive about that, aren't
I'm sure they are. To be fair, I've never heard them have a conversation about it, but obviously if they've done well, George, who's our brilliant S&C, he does actually an awards thing where he'll find like a protein bar or something, and then he'll award one of the players through the week for, whether they've hit a new record for distances covered or high speed running or whatever it is, or they've done something well in the week with their training GPS data. He tries to reward and encourage the players as well. For putting in the effort, where I think it's quite easy just to sort of, we've had players in the past that just cruise through training and just think, if I take it easy, I'm protecting myself from injury, where actually you then have a bigger gap between you've not done enough in training and then you hit a match which is really intense, where you then put yourself at higher risk, where we kind of want the lads to sort of consider what the week looks like leading up to the match, but put the effort that we require into those certain days in. So obviously the data gets looked at quite closely, and we encourage people who do the right thing.
Yeah, it's incredible, really. That is the advance, isn't it? I mean, you get so much information now, whereas, 20, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have had it. You wouldn't have known how fit a player really is, how they're doing in a game, all that kind of thing. It would all been observation, wouldn't it? But now, so many stats.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's for sure. And I think you almost need an S&C degree to kind of understand it all. So I've got a reasonable understanding. We're lucky. I think Scott Marshall's got a sports science degree as well. So he understands it. And I think that helps, having someone on your coaching side of things that's got that level of detail to the data, can understand it, and obviously hopefully translate it into what they want to achieve as well as coaching staff members. So I think that helps bridge the gap, because often you'll find, I suppose, as an S&C and a physio, it's really hard to try and keep your manager happy, try and get the output that we require, but also what they want. Where I feel like the current coaching stuff we've got in, it's amazing. I don't know if we'll ever get that again. It makes our life a lot easier.
Well, that's great to hear. Malcolm says, Harry must be a physio's nightmare playing with the socks rolled down. Now, he looks as though he doesn't have shin pads on, but I'm guessing underneath those socks there must be a shin pad, because he has to have shin pads on, doesn't he?
Tic-tac shin pads. So yes, Mr. Tight Calves. He's always on his toes, so his calves are quite tight. But yeah, as you said, he doesn't wear very high. He probably wants his calves to look nice and bulgy as well. Keeps the socks low. It tends to be a bit of a millennial thing.
Yeah, well, I can tell you about calf injury if you want me to bore you to death. But Kevin says, what do you think of players wearing paper-thin shin pads? Yeah, I mean, football boots is another thing, isn't it? You pick up a lot of injuries because the boots are so thin these days. Yeah. Are they a problem?
Do you know what? I think it's more, we've had a few knocks to the shins. You'd think you'd probably get more injuries than we have. So I can't really see the complete correlation, as much as you'd probably think logically that's just pointless. It's just kind of a tick in the box. But yeah, sometimes you do think if your shin pad was a little bit higher, you would have protected yourself from that knock, which is now giving you a bit of bony tenderness. But generally speaking, I can't really complain too much.
No, kick on the shin is extraordinarily painful. So there you go. Right, here we go. Let's have a look. Darren says, loving Ali's accent. Do the boys give you any sledging a la cricket? Do you get any of that?
Do you know what? Not with this lot. Not with this lot. Previous, when we had sort of Wellens and them in, they used to always give me busyness about the whole cricket thing, but I don't like cricket. I don't understand cricket. So no, the boys tend to like golf. That seems to be their conversation, and I don't get involved in the golf conversation.
Fair enough. Those of us who like cricket in this country still don't like cricket very much at the minute, so we're just... Jamie says, hello, Jamie. Fascinating. Great insight into what happens behind the scenes. Thanks for sharing. So thank you very much indeed. Sean says, now, one of our great physios of the past, Kevin Morris, used to have a great talent like playing spoons. I don't know if you know what playing with spoons is, but anyway, you get two spoons and you make a noise with them. Do you have any talents like that?
No.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll leave that one then. Saturday was a great memory. Whatever happens now, I think that's just about it. So what is your schedule now between now and Sunday? What do you do?
Well, I look out for text messages to see if anyone's got any creeped in issues. So we tend to find it's probably +2 post a match. People tend to notice that they feel particularly tight or sore. So you sort of expect that someone's going to want a rub, someone's going to want some kind of treatment. So whether that's acupuncture, cupping, as I said, a massage, might be the contrast therapy. We'll sort of look out and do that recovery stuff with them to try and get them prepared for training. But obviously once training kicks off we go. But it's just recovery stuff at the moment.
Yeah, you've got to be really, I guess you'll be monitoring that training quite a lot this week, won't you? Because
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you definitely need the boys to be transparent with you. If they're not feeling okay, you need to let us know, because it tends to be the ones that are feeling something tight. They end up pulling something where we kind of use that as a little bit of you've got to be careful. You've got some lads that will just want to have a training session off. So you just need to kind of, be cautious of who's saying what.
Fair enough. Anne says, I bet the likes of Phil King is breaking out in a sweat at the thought of the monitoring that today's players have got. Phil was renowned for not wanting to go on very long runs, I think it's fair to say. Andrew says, do you have a special medical bag for Johnny Williams? Now, you'll be aware that a lot of Swindon fans think he falls over a lot. A lovely bloke, and what a player. But he's pretty fit, isn't he, Johnny Williams?
Oh, he's been doing phenomenally. I think he's a great player that's had a very nasty sort of history of injuries, and I think he's on the ground a lot, but he also goes in for a lot of tackles and actually turns the ball over quite frequently. And without that sort of desire to go into challenges where he gets knocked, of course he's going to feel battered. So I think, again, it's one of those situations where sometimes I do have to go on the pitch. One, sometimes it's for the reassurance, and two, sometimes, he just needs that extra few seconds or minutes just to try and make sure he feels okay with it himself. But yeah, he definitely takes a lot more battering than some of the other players on the pitch. I think him and Reedy are probably the worst. You look at their legs after a match and they're battered and bruised and swollen. So, Reedy's constantly getting patched up for various different things. But Willow's exactly the same. I think they've both got quite fair skin as well, so they tend to show things a little bit more than others.
And I've got to say, I won't hear a word against Johnny Williams because he came out and said thank you after the dinner last week, which I thought was really nice of him. So, that was really, really nice. So, no criticism of Johnny Williams. Boring golf. Well done, Ali. Keep up the great work. So, there you are. You're going to stick around, aren't you? I know you've had the washing with the baby and all that kind of stuff. That's all done. So, you've got a few minutes to spend with us. So, that'll be fantastic.
Leisure time now.
Yeah, great. Let's get the rest on then, if we can. Chris?
Okay, yeah. So let's get the rest of the team on. So we've got James, we've got Rob, we've got.
Ooh.
Wait for this, folks. Wait for this one.
Oh, here we go.
Where's Anna?
Marvelous.
And here's Mark.
Hello.
Okay, I will leave you again, and I will speak to you later.
Okay, right. Let's go around the panel then. We've heard Ali's impressions of Saturday. James, your impression of Saturday?
Absolutely marvellous. Yeah, it was an all-round amazing day, really, wasn't it? Can't beat it. I have to say I was worried about the traffic situation, but generally managed to get there quite easily. And yeah, the whole day was wonderful. So.
Yeah. What about you, Rob? You left on Friday night, I think, didn't you?
It felt a bit like it. We worry about everything, Vic, don't we? We worry about transport and getting there on time. Yeah. The last thing you expected from a Swindon team this weekend was to go and do it easy. And what did we go and do? We went and did it easy.
Absolutely.
I can't believe we scored 3 goals in the first half, and we literally just sat back and watched the second half in total leisure and relaxation. Somehow I don't think the playoffs will be quite the same. No. Anna,
what about your impressions? You look so cool. I can't tell you how cool you look. But how was it?
Obviously, I scored a great goal in the 4th minute and won us a penalty. Like everyone else, it's nerve-wracking even just making the ground. I was quite prepared to set off at 6 a.m. and sit outside the ground for 4 or 5 hours, but as it was, we rocked up about quarter to 2 and just started to join in the pre sort of celebrations, I suppose you could say, and build the atmosphere for the team, which proved to be very important, I think.
Yeah, Mark, what about you? It was an extraordinary day in terms of Swindon getting into the playoffs. 3 or 4 months ago, even we wouldn't have thought that was possible. And certainly when we did these panels way back in June, July, absolutely no chance of getting in the playoffs, apart from Johnny Leafield, who do predict it. Bless him. So what about you?
Yeah, great day, Vic. It was actually my eldest son's stag do as well, all part of it. So that was interesting. So the rest of it really depended on the result. So as you can imagine, it was we had a couple of drinks. And the train from Birmingham New Street to the Bescott Stadium was very interesting. If I said to you that it was rocking on the tracks, that would probably describe it quite well.
Wow.
It was fantastic. Yeah,
I'm very impressed because you had a different shirt on just now. You now have got the Glenn Hoddle design.
Yeah, I spilled my tea on it.
Fair enough. Right. Saturday was amaze balls. This is from Chris. Can I make the point for the supporters of the club tonight? If we sang and cheered the lads on like we did when I witnessed the sheer noise at the Forest Green home game and again on Saturday at Walsall. We surely have been promoted as the lads are clearly inspired. One or two others just wanted to get in before we move on. Hi, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for your comments. Lovely of you to meet you as well. This from Darren. Any chance the cricket club could get an early open licence? Whether it's going to be brilliant, be good to get the party started there early. And it would have to be early.
Very early.
Yeah. What about that, Ali? The last two home games have been extraordinary, haven't they, in terms of the atmosphere? What have you made of it from the bench?
Oh, gosh, it's been so much louder. And I think there's been a few times Mildy's been on the radio to our analyst pair, and he can't hear what's being said on the other end because it's so loud, which is a good thing. Obviously, he gets a bit frustrated at times because he can't hear, but it makes such a difference to the lads because it does affect them, because there's been a couple of times, and I don't know if I should even say this, when we get in at half time and they're kind of like, they're frustrated with the fans. If the fans don't listen to them and you get these sorts of conversations, it does impact their mentality. Rather than sort of fixing what's going wrong on the pitch, there's a sort of that background noise that's then obviously interfering and impacting what's happening on the pitch. So it's certainly great to get in at half time or even at the end of the match and have the lads be like the fans were amazing or not have a complaint. So yeah, it's definitely made a huge difference, I think, all round.
Yeah, especially in those last 10 minutes against Forest Green, I would imagine, when they were hanging, I would think.
Especially with the 2 games a week, you kind of need that extra encouragement to keep you going, particularly because we've had, where that extra 7 minutes or 8 minutes come from with some of these matches. These boys are struggling, especially if they're starting to get blisters and things. You need that to keep you going when you're in pain.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll do our bit on Sunday, I can assure you of that. Let's have a look. I'll ask you this, James, because of your trust background. What do you think about MK Dons reducing the away supporters attending, hoping to give advantage over Wycombe Wanderers? Are Port Vale going to do the same? Well, the obvious answer is we don't know yet, do we, what they're doing? But we were commenting before we started this. That playoff game last night was bizarre, to say the least, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I must admit I saw it and I thought immediately when I saw that they'd separated the away fans into 2 different sections and basically put them as far away from the pitch as possible, I thought this is strategic, basically, to kind of keep the noise down. And ultimately, it just was bizarre. I'm really glad. I know there's a lot of debate before the club today announced what allocation they were going to give Port Vale for Sunday. I was wondering whether we were going to do something similar in terms of only giving him a very minimal amount, but obviously I think we're giving him 2,200, aren't we? Yeah. So it's that's a reasonable thing to do, I think. But no, it was extremely bizarre, and I have to say though, and I think Rob mentioned this when we were talking before we came on. Even though they were spread out in 2 different sections and miles away, you could hear them the whole game singing. They did a cracking job, Wycombe fans, of keeping the noise up. But yeah. It was bizarre, and I'm glad we haven't followed that kind of route.
No, as I understand it, we're giving them the bank on Sunday, but none in the Arkles. That's as I understand it. So the bank rob will be completely Port Vale, but none on the other 3 sides of the grounds. And I guess what we're hoping is that we'll get a fair old percentage when we go up to Vale Park.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very atmospheric ground for the away fans in that away end at Port Vale. So I imagine they may have been looking at how they could reduce the noise from the Swindon fans based on the volume of supporters we've been taking game after game after game away from home this year. I do hope there has been conversations between the 2 clubs and they've come to a mutual arrangement, even though we've not heard anything from Port Vale yet. For us to give 2,200, if we don't get a similar allocation back, then I think there will be significant extra noise from our own support.
Yeah, definitely.
I heard a rumour they're looking to try and near Port Vale, they're looking to try and close the motorway again and remove a bridge to try and stop Swindon fans from getting there. But I guess we'll have to see.
Take more than a bridge, James.
Exactly. We'll just leave the night before, like you did, Rob.
Yeah, Rob's leaving next Monday. Ian says, since the Orient defeat, the team have had to go for it. It's raised the entertainment value and got the fans going. I mean, I don't know about you, Anna, but I think I've enjoyed the last 2 home games more than many others this season. I mean, they've been incredible. I mean, Forest Green, what a game that was. and we seem to attack more, if I might put it like that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the point of the Ian who's just messaged in there, I would definitely put it the other way around. I think there has been to some extent kind of a meeting of minds based on how McCurdy's kind of call to arms, but the atmosphere on Saturday, for example, and at the Forest Green game was there from the off, and I think the players sensed that, and I think that's what propelled definitely Saturday and then into that fantastic first half performance, which effectively, won us that playoff spot. So go back to what was your exact question, because I probably answered a different one to the one you asked.
I can't remember now. It's a long time ago. No, it was the attacking intent seemed to be there from the off in the last two.
Yeah, I just think. I mean, so there's lots of stuff over social media, isn't there, where you can play back the sound that we created, and one of the things that was posted on Twitter was as the players were lining up to kick off, and that sound, the Ali 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 O, that sound was just phenomenal. That's somebody capturing it on their on their portable device, their phone, and that cannot fail to lift the players and propel them into that start, in my view. So yeah, and what a brilliant start it was. I mean, you hardly had time to. Obviously, we weren't settled in our seats, were we? Because most of us were stood up. But we had hardly time to start, and then we were 1-0 up. So it was just brilliant, just brilliant.
Mark, if I was to say to you, Mandela Egbo, where's he come from? What a player, and we must sign him up next season. It's that simple, isn't it?
Yeah, he's made a big difference, hasn't he, when you think about it? And I remember I actually text Anna, because we do exchange communication from time to time, and after the Orient game, and I remember saying to her, we're done. That's it. Now, that you could have been forgiven for all of us taking that view, but I'm going to give massive credit to the players and Ben Garner and all the staff associated with the football club. It's been a brilliant effort to win four games on the trot, and I think Mandela Egbo is in part instrumental for that, isn't he? I do believe in the modern game that you need fullbacks who can go by people and go by people on the outside. I like Rob Hunt as a footballer. I think he's a really good defender, but he doesn't beat a player going on the outside, and Egbo has shown that he can do that, and I think it's given a different dimension to our play. So he's not the sole reason why we've won 4 on the trot. He's certainly one of the reasons. McCurdy coming back is another. I don't think we should underestimate that. We had no attacking threat without McCurdy, really. We couldn't get behind teams, and now lo and behold, he comes back, and it's no accident again that we've won those 4 games on the trot. So yeah, it's just been a brilliant effort, and Mandela Egbo has been superb. I think he's a really good player.
Yeah, that run for the first goal. Ali, tell us about Mandela Egbo then, because he's had a career, hasn't he? He's been around. He's been to New York Red Bulls, Germany. I think he played it. He's been around, but he's not been around, if you see what I mean. And then all of a sudden he's in the Swindon team. And when he first came on, I think it was against Oldham, wasn't it? And he was just amazing. We all thought, wow, where's this bloke come from? So tell us about Mandela Egbo.
He's just a really nice chap, very much a gentleman. He's a little bit sort of quiet, but there is a cheeky side to him as well. He's very, very focused. The gaffer and him have known each other for quite a long time. I think it was when they were at Crystal Palace together when Mandela was obviously a youth player. So that's how they sort of knew each other. But he's just one of these players that, he's probably the last to probably one of the earlier ones in the morning and one of the last to leave. Very much focused on keeping himself fit. He's a few steps, I suppose, behind the others because he came in so late. So as far as his fitness and match, he's sort of been struggling with cramps and sort of like some neural sort of stuff going on. But he's kind of what we had at the start of the season for some of the lads. We're kind of getting delayed because he came in. So obviously he's needing a bit more sort of TLC to keep him going, which is why his minutes, I suppose, have been shortened towards the end of games recently. But yeah, he's definitely an asset to the team and very well liked by all the players and not staff, obviously.
Yeah, that run was incredible. And of course, it opened it up for Harry to get that goal. And as Mark was saying, I mean, to get a goal after 3-4 minutes, I mean, that's the perfect start. On the bench, what's Ben Garner like then? You get an early goal. What is he like when that happens?
He's so excited. You can tell, obviously, he's played at academy sort of league football. I think that inner player comes out in him. You get that sort of, I wouldn't necessarily call him serious. He's focused is probably the better word for him. You get that sort of focused Ben Garner, and then you kind of get that excitable player come out of him. But then he goes back to sort of that focused back to the job sort of character. But yeah, he always says to the lads before we go out, we need to get an early goal. We can't concede. Just try and keep things as basic as possible as far as his instructions go to the lads. And yeah, obviously it worked for us.
Yeah,
Concede
perfect
early.
start.
Get a goalie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tony says, love seeing Tyrese Simpson and Kane Kessler-Hayden at the game, which was lovely to see them there. I'm going to give this one to you, James, because I'm not up on these terms, but Rob says that must be the first Rabona in the history of STSC, unless someone knows different. Yeah, good. I'm glad you're... Because I thought it was a black currant drink, to be honest. Fair enough. Thank you. Rumor has it that we're not going to get many at Vale. Minimum is 10% or 2,000. They're using an upcoming Robbie Williams concert as an excuse. That's not until the 4th of June, apparently. So there you go. Right, Andrew says, where does the panel stand on Jojo Wallacott? James, we've seen fabulous stuff from Lewis Ward in the last few games. He's got the shirt. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that if someone comes in because someone's either injured or away on international duty or whatever, that, you know, if they play really well, you shouldn't just naturally, when the other person comes back, you shouldn't just go straight back into the team. You know, the person that's playing well should keep the shirt, and that's in any position. I think Jojo at the beginning of the season and you know, up until kind of Christmas was amazing. You know, he was absolutely outstanding. I do think, and I know we've probably mentioned this a few times, and I think other people on the panel before have mentioned it. Since he came back, I think from playing for his country, his confidence, and the first game he came back, he just didn't seem quite like the same player. I don't know, his confidence didn't seem quite as good. He didn't seem to command his box as well as he had done, and his distribution didn't seem to be as good. I don't know why, but I think, you know, and I suspect, I know he's had an injury now. I'm sure Ali can tell us more about that, but I think, you know, I don't know, it just didn't seem quite the same player. And a few people that sit around me at the county ground were saying exactly the same thing. So I don't know if he was tired. I don't know. I just didn't seem quite the same confident Jojo. So I think Lewis Ward should stay in the team. You know, he's done a really great job. Really, really great job.
Yeah, another comment. Notice Ward kept at his defence to keep their heads on, kept vocal throughout, if they could hear him, that is. Rob, what are your thoughts?
Probably similar to what James has just said, Vic. I think the one thing that struck me since he's come back from international duty is the command in Jojo that was pre-Christmas, where he was coming out taking crosses, has disappeared. He's turned into a stay-on-your-line goalkeeper. Now, he's out with his feet, and he's happy to come out of his area with his feet. He's very, very good with his feet. But all of a sudden, balls coming into the box seem to be a problem. And they weren't in the first half of the season. And because of that, the extra few inches you get from Lewis Ward makes a big, big difference when you come up against teams like Barrow, who've got 6'3", 6'4" centre halves coming forward. Admittedly, he would be the first to say he probably should have done better on the Barrow goal. But that aside, that's probably the one mistake he's made since he's been back in the team. And he certainly seems to have got a defence in front of him that trusts him and knows how to play with him at the moment, which when he came in the team around about January time, and that Man City game obviously will spring to mind for a lot of people, he didn't quite have that. I don't think they were clicking at all as a defensive unit at that point in time, but they are now. So absolutely, Lewis Ward for me stays in the team.
Yeah, he made a couple of terrific saves at Walsall early on. I mean, I know there was an offside flag went up, but he didn't know it when he made the saves, and they were terrific. Rob says Jojo's suffering the same as Kassim did after World Cup duties, and Ward's a better keeper, commands his box better. What would you say, Anna?
I think it's easy to be critical, and obviously I'm happy that Lewis Ward is doing really well. Bear in mind that he's also got a much more solid defensive line in front of him. I think Beaudry makes a massive difference, and confidence breeds confidence. I think you can see that in the way that Conroy plays as well. So let's give Mathieu Beaudry some
definitely.
What he's brought to the defense as well.
Yeah, Mark, where do you stand on this?
I think they're two quality keepers, aren't they? You know, we're very lucky to have keepers of that quality in League Two or Division 4, Vic, as we would call it. the current situation is that Lewis Ward is in the between goals on merit. I think I agree with many of the comments that have been made. I do find it reassuring that this great hulk of a guy should, be coming for crosses when it's being bombed in the box in the last 5 or 10 minutes. And to see that height, 6'5", isn't he, or something like that, Ali? He's, he dominates the box. But Jojo Woolacott in the first half of the season proved that he too was a quality keeper. So I certainly wouldn't write him off by any means. But at the moment, Lewis Ward should be in goal because he's in there on merit, hasn't let anybody down. Agree with what you said, Vic. Quality saves at the start of the game, and then at the end, when the ball is being put in the box, in the last few games, he's read it and commanded it and taken crosses out of the air really well.
Yeah. Ian says no debate, don't change a thing, keep Ward in. Ali, I don't know what you could say about Jojo Woolacott's injury. Whether you could say anything.
Probably can't really say anything, to be fair.
No, fair enough.
Apologise for that.
No, I get that, and I wouldn't want to push you on it. But I've got a couple of questions for you. This is from Steve. Are you ever consulted about new signings, and does she think she could keep Charlie Austin fit? Now, there are rumours going on about the return of Charlie Austin. I mean, I'm sure you could do your magic on any footballer, let's be honest. But how difficult is it? A player coming towards the end of his career, has had injuries in the past. How difficult is that?
Do you know what? If you've got a receptive management team, anything's possible. I think you've got to have that open communication. You've got to have good relationship with your players. If you don't have good relationship with your players, they're not going to tell you things that are going to be those early warning signs to prevent an injury. Obviously, you can have all the GPS data in the world and obviously your eyes to kind of observe what people are doing. But the biggest thing that you're going to use as a physio, and probably more so as an S&C as well, is what people tell you, your subjective history. So I think, any player that we do get walking through the door, even if they've got a quite significant injury history, I believe in our medical team that we can actually keep people fit.
Yeah, but you don't, Ben Garner wouldn't come to you and consult you about a new signing, or would he?
Not really. I think if they want someone, particularly at League Two, they're probably just going to take them. Right. So Joe Triolo is our head of medical. He's a chiropractor. He's probably more so the one that would do those initial medical tests and probably give advice to the manager. You should take this person or not based on their history. And obviously sometimes they do still sign them anyway. Whether or not I get involved a bit more in that next season, because I was still on maternity leave for the first couple of weeks of the season. So I kind of missed that element. And when it's a loan player, they generally just take them because they hand them a piece of paper and gives them the injury history. And generally speaking, the loans that we get are quite young. So usually they don't have an extensive injury history.
No, fair enough. And where have you got Mathieu Baudry from? Because this new younger centre-back who's playing like Franz Beckenbauer at the minute, he just seems extraordinary to me. And he's done a lot, it seems to me, for the confidence of Dion Conroy as well. Those two together look really solid. So where have you got him from? Did you suddenly find him? It's fantastic to see him back and playing so well. Yeah.
You know what? He's just, for me, he's like a puppy. He's such an excitable character, and he's so good for the change room. I don't know, in his head, I think he thinks he needs to retire, he needs to go back to his wife and his kids, because obviously he's got the twin girls and his little boy. So I think that's probably more the bit that's pushing him to kind of want to retire, because we're in probably a lot more than what we have been historically as far as training goes. So I think obviously that's a big demand on someone who's sort of getting a bit towards the end of their career, where he's playing so well that you don't really want him to retire, because there's still a lot more left for Frenchie to give. So I think he's just trying to give it his best shot towards the end of the season and hopefully finish off the way he would want to finish his career, if he does decide to do that. I hope he doesn't, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's his decision.
That run for the first goal against Forest Green was, wow, where did that come from? That
new set of pins.
Sean says, think Boundry's got one more season, should put off retirement for now. Malcolm says, shouldn't the club insist on the same allocation as we're giving Port Vale? Goal threat, hello Tamsin. Goal threats are McCurdy, Davison, Barry, Reid, Payne, Williams, and now also Egbo. Also worry about the opposition, but who would want to play Swindon at the minute? And I'll tell you what, James, well, we are the form team going into it. Of course, it's a new season, let's be honest, on Sunday. It all starts again, but we are in form.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely in form. And I was really pleased as well that I know it changed about 15 times, didn't it, on Saturday as to who we were going to play. and obviously with a crazy result from Bristol Rovers. But I honestly really did not want to play Bristol Rovers. So I'm really pleased that we've got Port Vale. I think all the teams in the playoffs are in relatively good form. So none of the games are going to be easy. But I think with the way we're playing at the moment, I don't fear any of the teams. And obviously Port Vale, I honestly think we'll easily come through it. I'm, not taking anything for granted, but I think we'll do a great job, and I think we'll steamroller them, and especially at home, and and make that trip to Wembley.
Wow, Rob, that's a prediction and a half, isn't it? We don't like the W word, do we? We don't like W rate, basically, do we?
No, but it's got to change sometime, hasn't it? That poor record's got to change sometime.
Yeah, love the old Wembley, Vic.
Yeah, we did love the old Wembley. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Sure about the new one? I mean, it's I just looked at the table again before I came on air, and you got 4 teams there who were actually within 1 win of each other through a 46-game season. So, yeah, we are where we are on merit. We deserve to be in the playoffs. There's absolutely no doubt at all about that. But I don't think you can argue the point for the other 3 teams either. I think they have all made a case for being there too. And I just have a sneaky suspicion that both of these playoff games against Port Vale will actually be quite tight. I think they'll be quite nervy affairs. And I think it will probably be the same with the other 2, the Mansfield-Northampton game as well. So I think I hope not. I hope the easy word that James just used comes flying out of our mouths quite regularly. But I suspect it's going to be a lot tighter than that. And I sort of have a feeling we might be going to extra time in Port Vale,
Oh, don't say that. I don't think I could stand it, quite frankly. And if it goes to those P's, I don't think I could stand that. What about you, Anna?
Well, we are where we are on merit. We are in the playoffs on merit, and we are one of the form teams coming in on the back of 4 in a row. You have to remember that is our first 4 in a row of the season. And we are where we are also, and not in the autos, because we couldn't sustain runs like that throughout the rest of the 46 games. So I think, Ben Garner is right to manage the players as he is doing, which is, and Harry with his 3 fingers. We've won that game. It was fantastic. Let's forget it now. Let's move on. Let's focus on the next game in hand, and in order to get to the W word. But we didn't deserve autos because we didn't get enough points. So let's make sure that the next 2-3 games, however many it ends up being, that we perform as we did. I think to sustain the level of performance from the first half against Walsall would be tough. But we have to try and be consistent throughout 90 minutes, 90 plus, in both of the next 2 games. And you don't quite know whether that's what we're going to get. Are we capable of it? Absolutely. I mean, that we're absolutely irresistible if we play like we did first 45 on Saturday. I don't think anyone can touch us. Nobody knows what McKeard is going to do. We've got Louis Barry running in from the left. We've got Egbo who can take players on. I think they don't quite know how to deal with that. But we need to be able to do it. And that's obviously, partly Ali's job to keep those players fit. But the training this week is kind of paramount importance. They know that. So let's kind of forget Saturday. Let's move on now. Let's do the job.
Derek, who's lives in Northampton. Hello, Derek. I fancy us against any of the other teams and think Northampton could bomb after the disappointment of losing out to Rovers last Saturday. And Ian takes on a similar theme. Northampton have to be on the lowest ebb going into the playoffs after Saturday. I mean, there they are, looking as though they're favourites, Mark, to get into the automatics. And then, well, I can only describe as a bonkers result at Rovers keeps them out. But are you pleased? I mean, I'm quite relieved Rovers are out of it, and we don't have to worry about them, quite frankly.
I think that seemed to be the general consensus, Vic, didn't it? That Rovers are the form team, and they've just had a remarkable record since probably Christmas and before. And to win the amount of games they've won since then would suggest that they are an excellent team, although it pains me to say it, if I'm honest. In terms of the other 3, Northampton, Mansfield, Port Vale, like Anna said, all much of a muchness, and I agree with what she said. On our day, we can beat any of them. However, we also need to be mindful of the fact that Port Vale will not make it as easy for us as Walsall did in the first half. I'll give you a couple of examples. Them backing off Jack Payne for about 30 yards, and they're not going to do that. They're going to be in our faces the whole time. don't forget that Port Vale, apart from us, have the best away record in the league. So they're obviously going to be tight. I suspect the games will be tight. I'd love to agree with James and say, we're going to coast to a 5-0 win or whatever it might be, but can't see it. I think it's going to be a squeaky bum time for a lot of it, and maybe the odd goal. Hopefully we can go up there perhaps with a narrow lead or something like that. And also perhaps another factor to consider is the fact that the Vale Park is probably one of the biggest pitches in the league, and that suits us. I hope they don't play funny buggers with the tickets, because that away end holds 4,800, and we'll fill that. Yeah. If they're going to start playing around and saying, right, you can have 1,100 or 1,500, that's just daft. Just give us the allocation, we'll fill it, and then they can make noise from the other ends, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Just let you know, I got a text just now from a mate of mine who's an Exeter fan, Andrew Barge. Hello, Andrew. If Port Vale play like they did on Saturday, then you need to score first, as they were superb once they had a lead, and never let Exeter back into it. And don't forget, Exeter were looking to win the title on Saturday, so that was quite a big result, really, for Port Vale. So I think, we write them off at our peril big time. And don't forget, when we did play them first half of the season at home, they're a very, very good side. Sean says Northampton are putting a complaint to the EFL. If we don't go up, it will be a lonely season next year. Lowest side in the Southwest with no derbies. Ali, are you aware of our record at the W place? Do you know what that is?
I am aware. I have heard a few whispers of that.
Yeah.
So we won't mention the W word.
No, we won't. No. It's a bit like the O word. We don't mention that either, really. I'm going to Speedway tomorrow at Plymouth, who are facing the O team, so I'm not going to take any. That's it. Right. I expect Vale to park the bus, kit bags and everything on Sunday, and try to catch us on the break. Need to get the first goal. How excited are you, Ali? Because you're involved with this. This is your job. But how much of you is excited as we are?
I'm super excited. I almost think sometimes I'm more of a fan than I am actually a staff member. So it's kind of the luxury that my work is obviously my hobby as well. I'm super excited and just can't wait to see what the boys bring. Sometimes you got a bit of an idea when we sort of go to warm up, or even just the buzz around the change room before we go out. You've got a bit of an idea whether the boys are going to be at it. Sometimes it's the times where they're a little bit quiet and a bit more sort of what we seem is focused. They're the times that they actually perform better than being too loud and almost too friendly with one another. You do get a bit of a vibe before we go out, but we obviously try and keep with what they're going with. They want to talk to you when you're doing strappings and stuff, talk to them. Otherwise, just leave them to it, because they need to have their time to get themselves prepared.
How close a group are they?
Oh, very close. It's by far the closest group we've had. They're very touchy-feely with each other, probably somewhat a bit too much. But yeah, they're very, very close. There's definitely not that sort of gap between the older ones and the younger ones in the squad. Very inclusive of one another. It's a great thing to have, because I think, sometimes the ones that are the best friends, they don't necessarily have to be the best footballers, even though I think that they are. Sometimes when you can be a cohesive group, that can sometimes bring out the best in team sports. And I think that's what we're seeing.
And how much of a part does Ben Garner play in that? I mean, I get the feeling that they all respect him as a coach. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. And he's been very good in that, we try and have, I think we've got like a rewards thing on Wednesday to try and keep the group morale going. We've kind of had events where they've been going 10-pin bowling or go out for a meal or something. Ben Garner's organised those things within the club just to make sure that we kind of keep something outside of football going with the lads as well, even though they tend to sort of meet up for coffees and do bits and pieces together. I think as a squad and staff members, you'd like to keep them all together and keep pushing.
Right. Well, Ian says Newport will be our derby if we don't go up, James. I mean, that is going to be a big problem next season, isn't it? When you think if we do go up, Forest Green, Bristol Rovers, Cheltenham, Exeter, Plymouth, it's a pretty Southwest-based group, isn't it, in that particular league? So if we don't, it's a pretty northern-based league. That's a big problem, really, in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, it means quite a lot of long away journeys, hey? Other than, like you said, other than Newport. It's I don't know. I think if the unthinkable happens and we don't go up, I think I don't know, those kind of close games where we're playing teams in the local vicinity, local derbies, whatever. Those are some of the games that the fans look forward to the most. So if we don't go up and literally the only local one we've got is Newport, it's not going to be great, is it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that other team that plays along the A420.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that.
But
I know you don't like mention them. They begin, the ones down the road.
and MK Dons, of course, because they're not going up. So, and Wickham possibly may not. So there'll be a lot of local derbies, Rob, if we do manage to scrape up.
Yeah, don't forget only 3 of us could talk about the O word because they've only got 3 sides.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a strange old situation, isn't it? Because League One historically has been our home. If you look at where we've spent most of our years as a football club, and to be honest, the vast majority of the sides that you've just mentioned have also spent most of their time in League One as well.
Yeah.
But it's very, very rare that you could actually trip off the tongue all of those teams and say you're all in the same division at the same time. Very rarely happens. So it would be a very congested southwest region. I'd always question about calling Plymouth a local derby for us because it takes hours. I know it doesn't for you, but sometimes closer to get to home back from Crewe than it is from Plymouth. But, it would be nice, wouldn't it? It always is nice for all fans if you've got games that really whet the appetite like local derbies. And I'm afraid Accrington on a Tuesday night, if we've got all of those, won't seem so bad. But Harrogate and Hartlepool will seem very, very bad if our local derby is actually not in the same country as us.
Fair enough. Yeah, we had to have different COVID protocols when we went there last time, didn't we?
We did.
All sorts of strange things to do. Oh, what about that, Anna? I mean, it would be fabulous to be in that. It'd be fabulous to be out of this league anyway, let's be honest. But, with all those local games, it'd be terrific.
Well, I have to say that I have thoroughly enjoyed the road trips for this season. Those 6,600 miles plus popped up. And, I think driving to Hartlepool, Carlisle, not a problem. So, and I really have enjoyed them. But given that we won 13 out of those, that is a caveat to that because Barrow was miserable, for example. And I vowed, I vowed I wouldn't go there again, but my son says you've got to exorcise the demons. So, getting promotion would get me a free ticket out of that one. But yeah, I know we get all the, you got a lot of local derbies coming up potentially if you're in League One. I want to get promoted for other reasons, which is that we shouldn't be in this division, basically.
Yeah.
We're a much bigger club than that. But hopefully what's gone on with the takeover will enable us to build, and not just build behind the scenes, but build that core player unit as well. So that every season we are not starting with, I know it won't be hopefully it won't be as bad as last postseason where you were literally hanging on by a thread with a few senior pros. But you want to build a much closer core unit, so that every season you're introducing new players into an existing culture. You're not building a new culture again. And I think that's what happens if the majority of players leave at the end of a season. And League One football will not only entice some better players into the club, but it will probably help a few of those players that are there at the moment decide to stay. So that's what I really want to see. We're not just building behind the scenes, but we're building a club, a footballing culture. And it sounds like from what Alice said, that the culture behind the scenes sounds like it's spot on in terms of, the thinking that the players have, the encouragement they give each other, the camaraderie, the understanding of what is to be achieved. And the fact they come off the pitch on Saturday and gone, okay, we won this, fantastic. Let's focus on the next game. You're only as good as your last game, right?
Definitely. The only thing about Barrow was the chippy was good. That's it.
We didn't get that far. Just got wet standing out in the rain.
Yeah, it was wet, wasn't it, that day, I have to say. And there was a bar, which I headed very well, actually. If the bar had moved, it would have gone to the top corner of the net, but sadly it didn't. Right, what about you, Mark? It would be a fantastic league to be in next season, but we've got to get out of this league first. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's one of those you look at, and it's 50-50. I think perhaps Rovers going up automatically has made it slightly in our favour because we go into the playoffs as the form team. James is right, teams have all been in decent form, but we've been in the best form. We've been in the best form hitting the playoffs at exactly the right time. We won 4 on the bounce. However, unfortunately, that does not mean that we will go up. We know it's going to be Playoffs are a lottery. They're the most fantastic thing. That I bore my sons rigid by telling them how playoffs saved football, which they did. In the mid-'80s, football was dying, and we had the playoffs come along. And you'll remember the first one, of course, against our friends from Gillingham, Vic.
I do remember it.
We had the most fantastic couple of games, and of course, going back to Selhurst Park for the replay in those days. I mean, you just couldn't beat that, and that sort of set the tone for the playoffs over the nearly 40 years that we've had them. So, but we also know that football is so unpredictable. You know, you couldn't predict the 7-0. You couldn't predict Man City losing 3-1 to Real Madrid last week, especially when they were, 3-1 up on aggregate with 5 minutes to go. You just can't. So we don't know. I agree, though. I would like to be in League One because that is our kind of, it's our home, if you like, in that sense, like Rob was saying. Who knows whether we'll do it? We'd love to. Heart says yes. Head says it's going to be tough. We'll see.
Ali, here's one for you. Would you allow Harry to go to the cup final on Saturday?
No.
Fair enough. Are you going to tell him or not?
Leave that for the gaffer to have that conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Kevin says, what a fantastic job everyone has done at STFC, top to bottom. Everyone involved who would have thought this last summer, be proud of what you achieved and let's finish the job now. Please, God, let's go up. Living in Stroud, where towns still have a huge support. I already can't stand Forest Gump fans giving it a large. I'll miss the vegetarian food. I have to say, that would be my big thing if we didn't go there. The town is a tidal wave and building promotion will happen sooner rather than later. Ali, thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's been great to have your company.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
I think all we can do is wish you all the very best, you and the players. And
thank you. Appreciate it.
Just do that job as much as you possibly can to get us up. That would be fabulous. And, we want that atmosphere on Sunday. We want that atmosphere next Thursday. We want to get promotion, but a long way to go. Ali, thank you ever so much.
Yeah, and I also want to thank, obviously, the fans. You guys have been phenomenal this whole season to stick by, obviously, the players and the staff to get us to this point where we're in playoffs. Huge thank you on behalf of all of us, particularly with the change of tune when we're at home. It's been loud and proud, and I think all of us are very, very grateful for that because it definitely makes our life a lot more enjoyable when the players and obviously the staff are happy.
Well, there'll be a lot of this on Sunday, I would imagine.
Good. It's probably going to be sunny. You'll probably need it.
I think. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. All the rest of you, James, Mark, Anna, and Rob, thank you very much indeed. Chris.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ali. Thank you for the panel. Thank you, Ali, for staying and giving us an insight to the other side of the team because it's we don't see it. We only see what's on the pitch most of the time. So it's fantastic. Right. So I haven't even spoken to Vic about this yet. So we may see you next Monday. Vic, are you on if we do one?
Well, we got a home game.
Yes, we have to. We have to. So we'll be back next Monday. Who will be on with us? We don't know. But we'll sort that out. We'll sort that out then. But have a good week, everybody. It's going to be a long week, but let's enjoy it. Let's get ready for Sunday and let's do the club proud. So, okay, see you all soon.
See you soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.